Oh, it is. It is a Tuesday episode. Although for me, it feels kind of like a Monday. I've been out a week. I just got back from Jamaica. I'm so happy to be back. I'm so happy to see some folks in here watching us live. If you haven't seen my beautiful face in a while, hope you enjoyed the break from it because we are back, baby. Alex Donno here, Donno Daily on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I can tell you for a fact, 1,000% at around 12:20. We will be joined by Brady Hawk, who does an awesome job covering the Miami Heat in the NBA for the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I was impressed by how disciplined Brady Hawk was tweeting out very serious analysis during the All-Star game. And I'm not knocking him. Like, somebody's got to do it. Like, somebody has to send out serious All-Star break analysis. And I guess he was the one to do it, man. So we're going to talk to him about the Heat's goals and expectations here as we're now, the unofficial halfway point of the season, but really 59 games into this 82-game regular season. Brady Hawk is going to join us to talk about that. As you could probably gather by the title to this episode and the photo of this episode, we're going to talk a lot of Miami Dolphins today. That's going to be the primary focus. I think maybe Alfredo Arteaga is joining us at 12:10. I just hadn't heard confirmation because we had to move the show earlier today. So I appreciate those who are joining us live here at 12 noon. I normally do 3 p.m., but I'm filling in to host the Hawk and Crowder show today at 2 o'clock on 560 and 790. So I want to have my cake and eat it too. I want to be able to do both. I'm also actually doing Miami Hurricanes basketball pregame, halftime, and postgame for their game against Pittsburgh tonight. So when I came back from vacation, I came all the way back, my friends. All right, so I see some people starting to arrive now in the live viewership and the live chat. So do us a solid. If you're in here and you haven't done so yet, smash the like button. Smash the like button and subscribe to our channel, 5 Reasons Sports. And yeah, I did just come back from Jamaica. Thank you, Mauricio. Let's go. Let's go. How was Jamaica was incredible, man. We were at the Sandals at Ocho Rios. I drank too much. I ate too much. I had officially, the day that we left, the morning we left last Tuesday, I weighed in and I had officially lost 40 pounds since I started dieting back in October. And I literally gained 7 of those pounds back in 7 days in Jamaica. So the work starts again. Hello to Eldrick. Thank you so much. We are representing the U all day, all night. Hello to Indade. Hello to Level 2 Noob. Indade writes in, I don't make a single move for Tua. I'd make moves for a quarterback. Now people can stop bitching. Well, look, listen, we know that's not going to happen. Tua Tagovailoa is going to be the Miami Dolphins quarterback in the 2022 season. I can't give you any guarantees for 2023, but I can give you a virtual guarantee that in 2022, this coming NFL season, Tua Tagovailoa will be the Miami Dolphins quarterback. And, bring up a couple tweets for me, Manny, because when I tweeted out, the title of this episode, how the Miami Dolphins can help Tua Tagovailoa this coming offseason, right? I actually received a pretty good response from our guy, Julian, who I know listens to me on the radio sometimes, and he watches these shows as well. Move the pocket, improve the O-line, have a running game, and add an explosive option. The running game will help Tua the most. I love Kenneth Walker III. That's the Michigan State running back. I like him a lot as well. I tend to, though, sometimes coming out of a college football season, I can become a little biased towards certain players that I saw up close that went up against my team. Miami faced Michigan State this year. He says, others who I respect aren't as high on him, but like in Coming to America, if liking the way he runs is wrong, I don't want to be right. But yeah, he speaks facts there. The Dolphins need to add another experienced, explosive option at wide receiver. Couple things were really eye-opening. Number one, anybody who watches the Dolphins, anybody who supports the Dolphins, we spend our energy, our time, and sometimes our money rooting for this team. That this wide receiver core last year, that they looked so good on paper, right? Oh, my God, Devontae Parker, Preston Williams. They signed Will Fuller. Albert Wilson is back. They drafted Jalen Waddle, who was great. Like, he was the one who lived up to it and I think even exceeded expectations. Like, Jalen Waddle was the one guy in that receiving core. Unless you count Mac Hollins, who didn't have a whole lot of expectations, I would say he exceeded those. He's been very good. But, Jalen Waddle was the one guy on that nice list of names who not only met the expectations being a high first-round draft pick, but even exceeded them last year. The other guys couldn't stay healthy, couldn't consistently catch passes, and a big problem the Dolphins had last year. And this is going to be a lot more important with the offense that Mike McDaniel is now installing. Yak. The Dolphins were 25th in the National Football League last year in yards after the catch. 25th. Now, the San Francisco 49ers, which is where Mike McDaniel and some of the coaches that are now on the Dolphins staff came from, were number 8 last year in yak. Now, maybe you're automatically going to get a little bit better in yards after catch, hypothetically, with the same personnel, just by having a different offense and a system that cater towards that. But we know that offense, this offense, because that's going to be our offense, Miami Dolphins fans, is really predicated on a lot of yards after the catch. And that's one area where I get called a Tua hater sometimes because I dare troll the Tua lovers and I criticize him from time to time. But I do think Tua Tagovailoa can absolutely, his skill set can lead him to excel in this sort of an offense with his quick release and his accuracy on short and intermediate throws. That if you have a squadron, a platoon of wide receivers who are able to get open quickly, create yards after catch, then I think Tua Tagovailoa can be elevated greatly. I still think he has limitations. I still think if you reach a point where you're in, a wild card round or a divisional round game or an AFC championship game, and you really need the quarterback to bring you back from behind and put the team on his back. I don't know if Tua Tagovailoa is ever going to be the quarterback to do that. But when it comes to efficiently running this offense and getting the most out of his teammates, if he has time to throw, and if he has a running game, and if he's got some receivers who can be explosive and create separation and create yards after catch, Tua Tagovailoa, I think, can really excel in this sort of an offense. And really, okay, you look at the receiving core, and there's going to be some guys who have been on this team who are not going to be on this team next year. I think it's Barry Jackson who's already saying that the Dolphins are going to move on from Preston Williams, and they can save some money under the cap, I think around $2.5 million by letting him go. That's great. What has he really done in a Dolphins uniform? The guy is only healthy when Haley's Comet comes through. It's like once in a 40-year type of thing. He's not helping out this team, really, honestly. Now, you could say some similar things about Devontae Parker, but I still think with Devontae, there's so much potential there. He's so good when he does play, and I think the cap hit and savings would be nominal savings, so I think it's worth keeping him around. Obviously, you want to build this receiving core around Jalen Waddle, who was fantastic last year. So, wide receiver, honestly, now you have some free agent options out there, okay? And I like a lot of these guys. I fall in love sometimes with the flashy diva wide receivers. There's no guarantee all these guys are going to be available. Is Green Bay going to franchise tag Devontae Adams? But if he is available, and I think that his future is going to be impacted based on whatever Aaron Rodgers wants to do, God, I would love to have Devontae Adams down here. I would like a lot to have Chris Godwin come down here, but it is worth noting he's coming off of an ACL injury, a serious injury. As far as in the draft goes, a player whose highlight reel I've fallen in love with, and I did watch him on a handful of college football Saturdays last year, the wide receiver out of Penn State, Jahan Dotson. I think he's fantastic. His catch radius and his vertical leap is unbelievable. You see some of these throws that should be sailing 2 feet over his head. He finds a way to go up and get it. He's athletic. He can run after the catch. He's got really good hands on deep balls. Obviously, when you're talking about drafting a receiver in the first round and your pick is the 29th overall pick. Thanks a lot, San Francisco. Thanks a lot, Mike McDaniel, for sabotaging the Dolphins draft before he even got here. When you're talking about a 29th overall pick, you also have to kind of do this mental gymnastics where you think, well, who's actually going to still be on the board at that point? So if he's on the board, and he could be, I like Jahan Dotson a lot out of Penn State. Jamison Williams from Alabama also looks really good. I like Treylon Burks from Arkansas as well. These are all names that could be there at 29th, may not be there at 29th overall. And man, Eldrick writes in Wilson Albert Wilson was the biggest disappointment to me. All of that talk in training camp. There was a lot of that. I mean, I still, to me, we hadn't seen him play in so long because of the injury and the opt out. I kind of looked at Albert Wilson last year. Like, if he can provide something, I looked at that's like the icing on the cake. That's like a bonus, right? The guy, obviously, and I'm not breaking any news here. I'm sure a lot of you feel the same way, but the guy who let me down most, and you can blame him if you want to, although it looked like his hand was actually shattered pretty bad. But man, I had a lot of expectation for Will Fuller. And you guys know this. For the people who have been watching this show since we started it last summer, you remember I devoted right when the season started, before he had all the issues come up. We all know he was suspended for the first game because of the PEDs from last year. But then we didn't know he would have, a personal issue that I still have no idea what that issue was, nor do I care to know, if I'm being honest. Then he had all the injury issues. We barely saw him on the field last year. I devoted an early episode of this show to Will Fuller last year, where I referred to him as the secret weapon. Well, unfortunately, the secret weapon had a faulty fuse. We could not light it. Like, you know what it's like? You've seen all those videos, and I know that these are sensitive times in the world, but this is not any commentary on what's going on in Ukraine. But you've seen those videos that have come out in the past of, like, when Kim Jong-un in North Korea tries to launch those test missiles, and then the missile will go up like 2 feet, and then it'll just fall helplessly to the floor. Well, the secret weapon, whoops, we can't actually fire it. That's what Will Fuller was this past year. This was a secret weapon that we couldn't actually fire, unfortunately. So, and the other thing, when we talk about, obviously, we're talking more about personnel, offensive philosophy, what the Miami Dolphins can do for Tua Tagovailoa. I could already say, and listen, I give the guy credit for this. I think that people are going a little bit too crazy sharing these videos as if like nobody else is working out. But his trainer, Perform, is putting out some hype videos of Tua Tagovailoa. He's putting in work. Guys, he's not golfing this week. He may have been golfing over the weekend. I don't know. But pull up for me, Manny. I love this tweet, and this was shared by Reason, who's a content creator in the Dolphin space. I think he's a bigger Tua Tagovailoa fan than I am. So when he saw this, he was like literally doing cartwheels and like high-fiving people when he saw this video. But I love how, like, it was either yesterday or Sunday maybe, where I'm like stealing a little time on my vacation and like scrolling through Twitter to see what's going on. And oh, there he is. Look at that slow-mo. Oh, dear Lord. Tua. How heavy is that medicine ball? How much does a medicine ball weigh? 50, 60, 70 pounds? Hey, now remember, Tua did have the longest air completion in the entire National Football League last year against Tennessee. I mean, it looked like he used up like 95% of his energy for the season just to kind of step into that one throw, but he did have the longest air completion in the NFL. Now he is throwing very heavy medicine balls out there. Now, the medicine ball video I thought was the funniest one because it's like, all right, here's a dude throwing a medicine ball, and people are commenting on it as if that's going to have any impact about the way he plays the quarterback position this coming year. But I will tell you, on a serious note, some of the videos, like the little quickies that they're putting out there of Tua working on footwork drills, and he's also been out there working out with Lynn Bowden Jr., who, was injured last year. There are some times when I forget that Lynn Bowden exists because we just haven't seen the guy in so long. But it's nice to see Tua was out there putting in some work on his footwork, throwing some passes to Lynn Bowden. So I'm enjoying it. And Brooklyn Rob, he may be right about this. He says, you mushed the guy. Stop it. He doesn't want me talking about Tua anymore. Doesn't want me doing that. Yeah, and I agree, level 2 noob. This is my guy if he's on the board. Dotson at 29 is a great pick. And, okay, I want to see if you guys agree on this in terms of drafting philosophy. Now, obviously, it's Chris Greer's decision, not ours, and he's going to have to look into best player available, not strictly based drafting on need. But if all things are pretty much equal, I think we can all agree that the 3 biggest areas of need that the Dolphins need to address with a combination of free agency and the draft, they obviously need to address offensive line, specifically offensive tackle, And bro, if they can sign Teron Armstead, that would probably be the singular biggest move of the offseason when you consider the quality of the player and the need that he would fill here in Miami. If they can bring Teron Armstead to the Dolphins, I'm going to be even more bullish on Tua Tagovailoa because I know his protection is going to improve. I also see him now with a coaching staff with an offensive philosophy that I think can play to his strengths while hiding some of his weaknesses. So all this to say, okay, offensive tackle, running back, wide receiver, biggest needs on your offense, probably the biggest needs on your team, period. I would primarily address offensive tackle in free agency because I think there are some good options out there. And I don't really trust this front office to draft offensive tackles because they've swung and missed before. I think it's time to go after known commodities, not players you clearly don't evaluate well coming out of college. There are certain positions they do evaluate well. Offensive tackle is not one of them. So I would focus on that through free agency. Running back, I might do a combination of both free agency and the draft, but even given how big of a need it is, I'm not necessarily looking at using my first round pick on a running back, even a late first round pick. Now, as far as guys you might be able to sign on outside of the draft, free agents, I've seen this put out there on a couple of lists. ESPN made this recommendation for this player to come to Miami, and I'd be down with it. Leonard Fournette. Yeah, I think Leonard Fournette could be an excellent addition to this backfield. I mean, very, very well-rounded back, can be your bell cow. Then I would keep Duke Johnson if possible, and I would keep Phillip Lindsay if possible. And so if you could add Fournette to those two, you send the rest to the other side of the galaxy. Don't even worry about the Myles Gaskins and the Salvon Ahmeds of the world. If I never see them in a Dolphins uniform again, I would sleep very well at night if that was the case. So then you could still go out and draft somebody, with maybe second day, right? But then first day, honestly, I think the best value you could probably get first day of the draft with your 29th overall pick would probably be at the wide receiver position, because a big thing that the Dolphins lacked last year, if you try to project this year's roster onto the offense they're going to be running next year, you need to have more guys who are explosive, create separation, can thrive in yards after the catch type of situations. And I think Jalen Waddle, he was the top Dolphins yak receiver last year, and he was ranked 60th. Like, that was the Dolphins' top yak receiver last year. So you need to, and I think he'll get better just maturing into his second year. Hopefully Tua matures and gets better. And I know the offense is going to suit both of them better. So that number is going to go up for him. I think he's going to end up probably in like the top 30 or 40 in yak at least next year. But you need to have somebody else who is in that mix, man. Oh, by the way, this could be a volunteer to be the Dolphins' backup quarterback. Level 2 Noob says, I'm 43 and throw a medicine ball at the gym. Sign me, Miami. He'd probably be better than Jacoby Brissett was last year. And when we're talking wide receivers, I'm glad Brooklyn Rob wrote this in, because Brooklyn Rob, he has been right about everything he's told me for about the past month. It's eerie. Like, I think his source might be Stephen Ross. Like, seriously, like Brooklyn Rob, among the things that he's told me over the last month or so, when the Dolphins coaching search started, he told me it's not going to be Brian Daboll. He said it wasn't going to be Jim Harbaugh. And he also said Harbaugh would end up staying with Michigan. And he did. And he told me all along it's going to be Mike McDaniel. And then he told me Wes Welker is going to come. And sure enough, Wes Welker is the Miami Dolphins wide receivers coach now. And so now when Brooklyn Rob tells me something, we got to take it seriously, man. We have to take this guy's word seriously. He says Cordarrelle Patterson. Do not dismiss it from his source. So there you go. Oh, look at my guy. We're going to talk to him, I think, on tomorrow's show. Tomorrow is Wednesday, right? I'm so thrown off. Big John Stud, the homie. So happy to be back in your good graces, sir. Hope you enjoyed vacation. I did enjoy vacation. There's always a moment in a vacation where you compliment just not coming home, but then you realize you're out of money. And so you do what you have to do. You have to come home and you have to go back to work. And also, my wife and I were on our trip without our son. So it's like, well, we got to go back and work again. And we've got to, parent our child, because I'm sure the grandparents would start to get a little bit impatient after a certain point. But so listen, man, from the offensive scheme to players we have to go after, we know we have to improve and solidify the offensive line. By the way, the Dolphins can move on from Jesse Davis and save $3.6 million under the cap by doing it. I will drive him to the airport if that's what it takes, right? So to me, he is as good as gone, right? There are certain players on this Dolphins offensive line who maybe underperformed last year. Like you could look at Austin Jackson for as much as he struggled last year. If I'm Mike McDaniel, I could look at Austin Jackson and say, you know what? Maybe this guy deserves a shot to at least compete because he's athletic and he's rangy, and that's the sort of characteristics we need to play offensive line for this team. So you might think about keeping that guy around. I'm pretty bullish on Robert Hunt. I love big men who score touchdowns even when they don't count. So keep your eye on him. But as far as Jesse Davis goes, like he may need to look into alternate career choices. Like we have a burgeoning digital economy. He needs to start minting some NFTs. He needs to start driving an Uber or a Lyft or both Uber and Lyft. Just look into something else, bro, because the pro football thing is not working out for you, okay? Tony Kidd writes in, nobody ever really criticizes Tua. He is a small, frail, dink and dunk, injury-prone bust. Let's stop looking at everyone else to play. I love how he could start the message with, nobody ever really criticizes Tua, but here are all his weaknesses and all the things that he is terrible at. It's like, and I didn't pull that up, Tony, to rip on you because I agree with a lot of what you say. But the thing is, like this coming season, I don't think this would be the best time to move on from Tua anyway, because Deshaun Watson is still in legal hell right now. And that's me even withholding moral judgment. I'm not making a moral judgment on that guy. I don't think there's any guarantee Deshaun Watson plays next year. This is not a strong draft class for quarterbacks, especially when you have the 29th overall pick. And then you look at players like Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. There's no guarantee what they're going to do. None of these guys have been strongly linked to Miami. I think you've got to grin and bear it for this coming season, right? Like, you take a quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa that I think can be a little bit better, at least a little bit better than Jimmy Garoppolo is. And by running this offense these last few years, they've gotten Jimmy freaking G, to a Super Bowl and another NFC championship game. So I would like to see at least for a season. I am open-minded and I am willing to see at least for a season what this coaching staff and hopefully with better personnel surrounding him, what Tua Tagovailoa and company can do next year. Because again, I'll remind people for the 10 millionth time, it is a team sport. I know quarterback is the most important position. Quarterback is the most glamorous position. Quarterback is the most scrutinized position. And yeah, that is the guy who touches the football on virtually every offensive play, unless you're running a wildcat or a direct snap or something. So I get why quarterback is so important, but still, there are other areas you need to improve. It's not the most convenient time to improve the quarterback. So I say, let's see what we got, my friends. All right, let's see what we got here in Miami Heat land. Brady Hawk, who does a tremendous job covering the Heat and the NBA for the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Good afternoon, Brady. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me back. Welcome back.
And I got to tell you, man, I was enjoying because I didn't watch much. I did watch a little bit of it, I will admit, from the hotel room. I watched a little bit of the All-Star game because they did have that on TV in Jamaica, but I didn't pay. I missed all of Saturday night, and I'm glad I did because it was brutal. I watched a little bit of the actual All-Star game. I was impressed with your professionalism because you were like breaking down the All-Star game in your tweets. Like you made me feel like I was watching something better than I really was. So nice job with that, sir.
I felt like I had to because Spo was coaching it. I was waiting for him to come up with an ATO out of a timeout or throw a 2-2-1 press at LeBron or something. I was prepared for it all. So I was just making sure everybody was prepared.
So what was your takeaway? Because obviously, hopefully Spo didn't waste too much of his mental energy scheming for the All-Star game when he's got a team that's currently in the number 1 seed. But you still, how many of Spo's footprints did you see on Team Durant, and how did you think Spo did?
Yeah, I think it's just a fun thing. Like I don't think he's giving up any inside information or anything on his playbook or anything in general. I was more looking at it from Jimmy's perspective. He came in for about 8 minutes straight. Never came back in. I think that was expected. Like the 8 minutes was over under, I would have went under in 8 minutes because he's not an all-star game in general type of guy, and definitely not this year. He did not seem too excited anytime he talked about the all-star game, but obviously he didn't waste any time because immediately, I think it was Monday morning, he was already back in Miami doing stuff down here, just so he didn't waste any time getting back and having a nice little 4-day vacation.
Now, okay, this story is not directly Miami Heat related, but it does involve a guy we consider a member of the Heat family, Juwan Howard. Okay, to me, like obviously, I understand. Like someone puts their hands on you a lot. I don't know how I would react in that situation. So but it was dumb. It was really stupid what he did. But what do you think of the fallout? Did you think, hey, the 5-game suspension, is that fair? Too much? Not enough? And then the other thing is, they were talking about, which to me sounds incredibly stupid, like to take away handshake lines after games. It's like, I don't like what is that supposed to fix it? Like the handshake line was not the problem. Like, what do you think about all this, Brady?
Yeah, I think the suspension was fair. Like, I didn't think it made sense when people were acting like he should get fired. Like,
oh, that was ridiculous. Yeah,
that just kind of seems a little crazy. But it was just wrong all around. Like the guy in Wisconsin head coach to touch him in general, first off, is an issue. For Juwan to respond like that is an issue. So it just seemed like, you can know when your coach does something like that and he open hand slaps the other coach, you see what happens when how your players react. Because if you see your coach do that, then you know it's just okay and you can start letting loose like that. So I think it was just wrong all around. But what was the second part of your question? I think it was just the suspension, I think, was right around there. But what was the second part you said?
Well, it was like people were talking about, and I think a couple of head coaches have already said this is the stupidest thing ever, but they're talking about like taking away the handshake line, right, as if that was the reason why this all,
But it is, the handshake line is kind of dumb. Like, I think we can agree on that. Like just like you're forced to go and shake somebody's hands. Like if you want to respect them, go respect them. But I don't think you should maybe force them into it. If they want to get rid of that, I think it might be okay.
Okay, all right, you may have sold me on that. It reminds me of like when I played like Little League and when I played soccer as a kid, and then you're in like 3rd grade and you just lost a game and you hate these kids. Like everybody got to go. Like it was like a high five line then, and like kids would
maybe
talk
second
trash.
Grade's like the limit. Maybe second grade's the limit. Then when you turn into 3rd grade, then it's okay. And if you respect your 8-year-old buddy, then you go and shake his hand.
So unfortunately, we're not going to be getting the Goran Dragic reunion. Did that surprise you at all? Like, because I know people seemed a little bit wishy-washy on that, as far as like if they really thought the Heat would bring him in as a buyout or wouldn't bring him in. Any sense of surprise that he didn't get his reunion this year?
Yeah, no, not at all. I don't think it made sense this year at all. Just looking at the way the C team's constructed, if they have that one spot to bring somebody in, first of all, they already have Oladipo. It's going to be coming back as their guard replacement type of guy. Goran would have been way down the line. If they, as we see right now with the Markieff situation, that they kept him on the roster, they could potentially need a backup 4 just in case anything goes wrong. So it didn't make much sense in general. I was a little bit surprised him going to Brooklyn. I think it makes a ton of sense. But I don't know why. Everybody was talking about Milwaukee. I just felt like that was kind of the place that he'd end up landing. And I think from Miami's perspective, it's a lot better that he ended up in Brooklyn than Milwaukee, because I feel like it was a much better fit, because I think Milwaukee's a much scarier team, obviously, than the Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn now has a point guard when Kyrie obviously is not there at home games, so Goran will get a decent opportunity. It'll be good to see him play basketball again, because I don't think we know how he looks. So maybe if Miami wants to look down the road, maybe bring him back next year, or him retiring here. Now they get a little sample size to see how he looks in Brooklyn.
Well, and I think we have to have a conversation about like the way playoff seeding may work out, because you may have a team like Brooklyn, who people expected to be, a top seed or a 2 seed, like end up being a 7 or an 8, and the Heat may be on the other end of that. So like, can you look at a team or two, Brady, that you'd say, hey, I'd really like to avoid this team in the first round? Like our prize for being the first or the second seed might be playing a team that was expected to finish way higher.
Yeah, it's crazy, because when you think about how deep this East is, you have Miami, you have Milwaukee, you have Brooklyn, you have Philly, and you have Chicago. 2 of those teams are going to be playing each other in the first round, which is kind of wild, because those are 5 pretty decent teams. But if I'm looking from Miami's perspective, I don't know how the Brooklyn thing's going to work out. I'm sure things will fall into place later in the season. I think if I'm Miami, I'm not dodging anybody in the first round, because if you're a true contender, you're not dodging a first-round matchup. Right. But I think Toronto, out of any of the teams at the bottom of the East in that type of range, can really draw out a series because we
I
know
forgot
how.
they were in there too. My God,
Right,
it's like a
because
lot of great teams down
it
there.
is. I think best case scenario is probably a Charlotte team because not only has Miami handled them, I just think they're not
Yeah.
playoff ready. I think there's exploitable things there, but Toronto is just a hard team to play against. Maybe because they're playing a starting five all season, they'll be burnt out by playoff time. But there's some young guys on that roster that'll just make it tough. I think they'd be able to win that series, obviously, but it'd be drawn out to the way that you don't want to get that, your veterans get that tired in a first round matchup that I think Toronto would be able to do.
We're joined here by the hardest working man on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, Brady Hawk. He keeps the website running. Like, he keeps the doors open on that site with his great breakdown pieces. So as we look now to, it's not, unofficial midway point, but we've already played 59 games. So we look at what's to come for the Heat. There's been a lot of noise the last couple of weeks about Victor Oladipo's progress, the 5-on-5, Sioux Falls, Skyforce. But, it's almost like at some point, we're going to be like running out of time to acclimate him in the regular season. So at what point do you think they give it a go?
I honestly have no idea when they're going to do it because they will never tell anytime early. I know there's been some videos, I think was a couple days ago, where he was with Remy down here and he was getting some runs in with Josh Richardson, a couple of guys. So it seems like he's getting close. Getting the run in with Sioux Falls is obviously important. I think that was the last element. I think the Klay Thompson experience kind of told you how soon it can be from going to a G League team and working out 5-on-5 in practice, getting back in. It can happen quickly, so I wouldn't expect it to be too long. But that's going to be interesting because, as you said, he needs some time to get acclimated. He had 4 games with Miami in last season. Like, this isn't a thing where he can return and he just knows exactly what to do. Being around the team this entire year, I think, is a good thing because that's obviously important, but it's just so different when you're on the floor. That I think they're going to need some time. I think they're going to need some time specifically with Victor Oladipo and Tyler because I think that's the area that they're going to focus on because that's the 2 guys off the bench of a potential backcourt off the bench that they're going to really want to focus on, use those 2 in a way that they don't have to fully stagger like they did last year. So I think that's the important thing. Get those 2 guys reps and then go from there. And obviously, hopefully, you have a pretty simple 8-man rotation later in the postseason.
Yeah, and I guess we can get into what that rotation may look like because I look at some of the unproven guys who have really contributed in this regular season. Gabe Vincent has been awesome lately. Max Strus, Caleb Martin, guys like that. And then on the flip side, you've got a guy who's been to the finals before, who's been, very up and down, probably more down than up, like Duncan Robinson. So once we start to get into the playoffs, Brady, and, the minutes tighten up, the rotation tightens up, do you worry about some of these, former G League or two-way guys, even though they've had big regular season moments? Do you think they just might disappear? Because that's what happens to inexperienced players in the playoffs. And then on the flip side, do you hope a guy like Duncan Robinson can actually, because he's been there before, he's been there, done that he may actually step up when the lights are brightest?
Yeah, I think the big thing there is, in my head, I think the rotations, obviously the regular starting lineup, Tyler, Victor Oladipo, Dedmon, and I think they probably go 9 as far as they can. And then once you get later in the postseason, you probably have to cut it down to 8. But that 9th guy is going to come down to, we've seen Strus had big moments early. We've seen Caleb consistently be really good, and Gabe's been really hot late. So I think it's going to come down to as simple as, for one, the matchups. I think you're going to look at what you need at that time, but also who's hot to end the season because you kind of have to ride the hot hand in that way. I think it's pretty simply going to be Caleb or Gabe. And I think it's hard to see them not go the Caleb route because I think they're going to need a little bit more size in that way. If you're going Gabe, I think it could work in a regular season, but they could scheme around that a little bit. As good as he is defensively, his size may hurt him there. So I think Caleb would be able to squeak in. And I think there's certain scenarios where they play these quick teams that don't have lack a little bit of size, that they maybe don't even go with Dedmon in a series. I think they go totally small. You stagger PJ and Bam a little bit. I know people don't want to see those small lineups too much, but there's certain teams in this East right now that you can run that against. So I think their big thing is they have options. Heading into the postseason last year, we weren't having these discussions. We weren't talking about who they could play. We knew who was playing because they didn't have many options. So I think that's a positive thing heading in.
Great work here as always. You want to make sure you check out his stories, 5reasonsports.com. Follow him on Twitter at BradyHawk305. He does the excellent Brady breakdowns there. They're also available on YouTube. Is there anything else, Brady, you want to promote? I'm sure we're going to hear from you on the podcast network, maybe see you do some more video content this week.
Yeah, it's pretty much it. And there's a new article on 5reasonsports.com where I went through all the late game offensive situations this season for Miami and kind of broke down the stuff they run late in games, which has kind of been problematic.
I love it. Brady, thank you so much. All the best to you, sir. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I love it. Brady Hawk 305, the man. All right, so it may have been my fault that I read this the wrong way in Dade, but he wanted to clear this up. I meant don't make moves specifically for Tua, make moves that would help any quarterback. That I get what you're saying, because it's like if we look at Tua as being a guy who I don't think it's my opinion, folks. If you want to get mad at me for it, fine. What do I care? But I don't think Tua is ever going to play up to his 5th overall pick status. Like I don't think you're ever going to look back at Tua's career and say, "Wait, that guy was a top 5 pick." That guy. It doesn't mean he can't have success and win in this league. It doesn't. We've seen quarterbacks have the right coaches and the right teammates and the right defenses to prop them up and play up to their strengths, hide their weaknesses. But so I get what he's saying in that, hey, if people like you and me can look at Tua and say, I think this guy was a little bit overrated when he was drafted, and I think he has, unfortunately, more limitations than we thought he did. You don't necessarily want to make moves that are just built strictly around him and not around other quarterbacks that can help. But the problem is, since Tua is different than a lot of other quarterbacks, right? Like Tua to me needs an offense that thrives more on speed and rhythm and short, accurate passing, quick release. And, obviously having the running game that can come from that Denver Broncos style Shanahan outside zone is going to, make his life a lot easier potentially. So it's just since he's different and also he's left-handed, right? He's left-handed. So you have to build, your offensive line with that in mind, that his blind side is on the other side. So unfortunately, and I have a better idea of what you're saying now in Dade, but unfortunately, the answer is I think the only way to really maximize Tua is to build specifically around Tua, because he's literally the only left-handed quarterback in the NFL right now. And he's got a skill set that is very unique, even outside of what hand he throws the football with, than 85-90% of the other quarterbacks in the league. So it's hard. I mean, you just got to hope that if you build solid weaponry and a solid running game, that, if the Dolphins did move on from Tua 12 months ago from now, 13 months from now, that, you're building players that could help with any quarterback. So I totally get what you were saying there. I want to remind people out there that you see this logo up there on the screen. This is my spot, bros. I just came back from vacation. Unfortunately, they don't have a quarter deck in Jamaica. That's the bad news. The good news is they have quarter deck in South Florida, which is where I live. So, guys, if I want to feel like I am back on vacation, I am going to head on down to the Quarter Deck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill, especially if you're talking about that vacation vibe. If you haven't been to the Dania Beach Pier location, guys, it's breathtaking. It's right on the pier, right out there on the water. You will feel like you're on vacation. The quarter deck, all the locations are awesome. I love the Sawgrass location out there near FLA Live Arena where the Florida Panthers play. The Panthers are awesome. I will try not to mush them in this episode because they've been so freaking good. The Fort Lauderdale Beach, the Davie location is excellent. We've had a lot of watch parties out there in Davie. But yeah, if you really want to feel like you're on vacation, head out to the Dania Beach Pier location. It's an absolute breathtaking view out there. The food is so good at the quarter deck. The fresh seafood is fantastic. The burgers and sandwiches are awesome. The key lime cheesecake is fantastic. The quarter deck is a great place to wet your whistle. They got 2-for-1 happy hour all day, every day. 2-for-1 cocktails are always flowing. The beer is always cold. And it's a great place to watch the big game. They've got TVs, flat screen, high-def TVs covering every wall. It's a great sports bar vibe there with delicious food. And you can watch every UFC pay-per-view fight out there with zero cover charge. You pay nothing at the door. So if you want to try it out for the first time or head back there, if you're already a member of the Quarter Deck family, you can check out their menu online before you go or find the location nearest to you at quarterdeckrestaurants.com. The Quarter Deck, come for the food, stay for the fun. And my friends, if you're looking to place a few wagers. Now, I know it was a sad day for us 9 days ago when the final whistle of the Super Bowl took place. We don't have football for several other months, guys. There is plenty of stuff to wager on. BetUS.com. It is America's favorite sports book. It's a full-service online sports book, and it's fully available in Florida. If you're in Florida, don't worry about it. Sign up. You can use all their services, win real money, wagering on games. They actually have a full casino as well right there on the website. It's like having Las Vegas in your pocket. Like sometimes, like if I'm up early in the morning and there's not a game going on, I could play blackjack on there for real money, other table games, slot games. It is so good. BetUS.com. They are the 3-decade leader. They just finished their 27th NFL season, so they are the proven mainstay in the industry. It's so easy to sign up. And guys, we've got the best bonus in the industry for you. If you want to use some free play money on Heat games, Panther games, international soccer games, Major League Soccer games, that season is starting up. There are so many options for you at betus.com. Sign up with our code, because if you sign up with our show code, not only does it give us the credit, which makes us feel good, but it's also going to get you a huge bonus, which makes you feel good. So sign up with our code 5RSN125. That's 5RSN125. You see it there on the screen. And they're going to give you a 125% sign-up bonus. You sign up with a $100 deposit, they're going to give you $125 on top of your $100 in free play money. How good is that? So you can use that the rest of the NBA, NHL seasons, all the soccer games, everything else going on, my friends. If they ever decide to play baseball, you can bet on that as well. BetUS.com. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com. So some of the things that happened while I was away, the Dolphins and Hurricanes coaching staffs. I was geeking out when I see Mike McDaniel not only adds Sam Madison, he also adds Patrick Surtain to this coaching staff. Like, it's incredible. And not only, like, these guys are capable, proven, really good at what they do. And then, of course, they also have the added bonus of loving the Miami Dolphins and being two of our most legendary players. So all of this fits like a glove. So I think back to that video from a couple weeks ago when McDaniel was walking into the Dolphins facility to sign his contract. And he's like walking by, looking at the photos on the wall, like, oh, Sam Madison, Patrick Surtain, Jason Taylor, Larry Zonka. He ends up hiring at least half of these guys to coach on the staff. It is such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And, okay, some of you may have seen this. I was just getting caught up on this morning. But I know we got some Canes fans who watch us as well. There's been some buzz apparently. And I've been a little bit out of the loop because I was on vacation, but I was chatting on the phone with somebody very reliable this morning. And he brought this name up in terms of the Miami Hurricanes. And I did a double take. I'm like, wait, you talking about the Canes, right? Not the Dolphins? Have you guys seen that there's some buzz? And I'm telling you, the buzz is real. I'm not guaranteeing you this really happens or not, but there may be something going on here is what I'm saying. Jason Taylor, possibly an addition to the Miami Hurricanes coaching staff. I mean, I was blown away by that one. I mean, could you imagine Jason Taylor coaching the Miami Hurricanes defensive ends? It's like, you may have seen this buzz. I'm not telling you I'm reporting it, okay? But I am telling you that somebody who's pretty reliable that I happen to be talking on the phone with brought this name up. Like, this is something he's hearing could be happening. And then I did double check on Twitter. I went on social media, and there are some people that have, not that many people, but a few people who have tweeted about this. So I know that this rumor, if you want to call it that, is out there. That maybe it's not beyond the realm of possibility that Jason Taylor could be added to the Hurricanes, not the Dolphins coaching staff. But I love that we have the finalized Dolphins coaching staff. I've got it in front of me. I love what Mike McDaniel is doing here. And I love it extra because, of course, anytime you hire a first-time head coach, you always have to think, okay, what kind of a staff can he put together? That was something that Brian Flores failed at. I know that the narrative has really changed to many other reasons why people think Brian Flores was fired, but I've got to think part of the reason why Flores was let go was because he couldn't put together a competent offensive coaching staff. Mike McDaniel, I think, is hitting home runs on both sides of the football. This guy's never been a head coach before, so it is possible. It is possible to put together a nice staff despite not having head coaching experience. You make enough connections. You actually know how to work and leverage those connections, because some people are just not that good at networking and I think in the case of Flores, people maybe knew like this guy's not that easy to work with, or he may not have sought certain people out because he didn't want them to be a threat to his authority. So I think it was a two-way street with Flo. So tight ends coach John Embry, we talked about this hire a couple weeks ago. I love it. I'm hoping he can do with any number of Dolphins tight ends what they did with George Kittle. I'm still not convinced Mike Gesicki is back next year. We'll have to see how that goes. Offensive coordinator Frank Smith, love that move. Associate head coach, running backs coach, our pal Eric Studsville stays on the staff. As long as he's not calling plays, I'm fine with it. I think he's a fine running backs coach. I had no issue with that. Passing game coordinator, quarterbacks coach Darrell Bevell. That's an unbelievable freaking hire. This is another factor. You want to talk about what's going to make Tua better? Coaching staff, including a guy like Darrell Bevell, that's going to contribute to that. Assistant quarterback coach Chandler Henley. Wide receivers coach, I love our guy coming home, Wes Welker. Assistant offensive line coach. Now, this is the one that when people saw this, they're like, no, McDaniel, you fucked up. You screwed it all up. How do you keep this guy on the staff? Lemuel Jean-Pierre Lem stays on the staff. But okay, guys, look at this. As far as I can tell, Lem failing last year was about him getting too much responsibility and authority too quickly, and he wasn't ready for it. First time offensive line coach. He was in charge of that department last year. I just didn't think he was experienced enough to do it, and it shows. I am not offended in any way, shape, or form by him being the assistant offensive line coach, right? Because I don't know how many of his issues last year were just not being ready for that gig. Like, have you ever, maybe you've gotten a job at some point in your life that you weren't ready for, or you've seen people get jobs where they're not ready for, then 5-10 years later, it's like, okay, they figured it out, right? That happens in every walk of life. Some of you probably think that I still suck at this, which is fine. You're entitled to that opinion. But man, when I can remember like the first really couple years when I started actually having opportunities to like host my own radio show, or at least fill in for people and like host 2, 3, 4 hour shows solo. There were a lot of times I probably wasn't really ready for that, right? And it really took me a couple of years to figure out how to do it somewhat confidently, okay? I still probably have a lot that I can improve upon, okay? But yeah, I think it's very possible you get an opportunity, you're not ready for it. That's not necessarily saying that Lemuel Jean-Pierre will never be a competent coach. I think keeping him as assistant O-line coach, fine with it. Quality control, Josh Grizzard, offensive assistant, Mike Person, offensive assistant, Aldrick Robinson, offensive assistant, Colby Smith, defensive coordinator, Josh Boyer. Now, I know, a lot of you wanted to go outside, but I think staying in, even if Boyer wasn't your first choice, I think staying in and keeping Boyer is fine continuity, and he seemed to be good at that job these last couple of years anyway. Austin Clark coaching defensive line, assistant defensive line coach Derek LeBlanc, outside linebackers coach Ty McKenzie, linebackers coach Anthony Campanile, assistant linebackers coach Steve Ferencz, assistant defensive backs coach Matthew Araujo, if I'm saying that correctly, cornerbacks coach, pass game specialists, Big Sam is back. Oh, this is an inspired hire. I love it. Safeties coach Steve Gregory, senior defensive assistant Ryan Slowick, defensive assistant Patrick Surtain, baby. We got Pat and Sam back in the building. I hope Xavier Howard stays. Like, I hope that like he doesn't force a trade or something. Like, God, because I think it would be incredible, because like right there, you could argue the 3 best corners in Miami Dolphins history, either on the team or on the staff in the facility at the same time. If you could have coaching, Madison and Surtain, and an X on the field, like arguably the 3 greatest corners in Miami Dolphins history, all in the building at the same time. I'm geeking out to that, man. Special teams coordinator, Danny Crossman, assistant special teams coach, Brendan Farrell, head strength and conditioning coach, Dave Palooka. So that is the Miami Dolphins coaching list there, which I think looks fantastic, especially a bang-up job done by a first-time head coach who's never had to hire his own staff before. I give this staff, I don't know, a solid B- or A+, right? I mean, I don't see how you could do much worse than that. I mean, maybe you knock down a grade because Lem is still on the staff, some of you, but I think it's a really solid staff. And then meanwhile, down the street in Coral Gables, listen, for as excited as Dolphin fans get about that staff, Cristobal's doing even better with the Canes. I mean, you've got people like Frank Ponce, who we thought would end up being possibly an offensive coordinator here, is a quarterback's coach working under the guy who was the sitting offensive coordinator at Michigan and Josh Gaddis. Two incredible hires. We just hired Charlie Strong to coach the linebackers. Like Charlie Strong, who has had multiple stops as a head coach. Like you would have thought, like if Charlie Strong, if he's taking jobs somewhere, not as a head coach, he's going to be a coordinator, some linebackers coach, which also tells you, and they don't have to disclose it because it's a private institution, that budget must be ridiculous. I never want to hear anyone slander the Ruiz family or like Marcus Lemonis, who finally followed me back on Twitter a couple weeks ago. I was like, yeah, it's Marcus. I didn't even watch him on TV. Like, would he be insulted if I told, like, he's on CNBC? Like, I've never watched a second of The Prophet. I don't know what that's all about. But I know, like, Marcus Lemonis, I know him from the press box because he visits with Joe Z and Don Bailey Jr. like once or twice a season. And like, I've met him up there. I'm like, wow, this guy's got a lot of personality. He's really fired up. You know, like I offered him a handshake. He gave me a bro hug, like, which I love. I love when you go in for the full bro hug. And then somebody told me later, oh, that guy's on TV. He's on CNN. Like, what? That guy's on TV. But no, I love that dude. He finally followed me back. So I don't want any disparaging words spoken about any of these donors. And bro, if you need like blood work done, you go to the fucking U Health system. You support that cash cow that is U Health. I say that even though my wife works for a competitor. So I don't know if I should be even promoting that, but no, it's unbelievable. I mean, Charlie Strong is your linebackers coach. And I talked about the rumor. And again, this is not me reporting it. Somebody mentioned this to me who's well connected, and I've seen a few people tweeting about this, that there is a rumor that the Hurricanes, not the Dolphins, the Hurricanes might even add Jason Taylor to coach the defensive ends. And again, this is not a report. This is something I heard from a couple of different places. Oh, my God. How incredible would that be? Hurricanes making the playoffs. Book it, Donno. Well, yeah, I mean, hopefully the SEC leaves a couple of spots for other teams, right? Because it's like two get in from the SEC every single year. So it's like you got to hope like winning the ACC is going to get, because another spot will probably be for the Big Ten. Notre Dame could be in the mix maybe. I don't know how good they're going to be next year, but yeah, you got to hope that you can get in, man. So unbelievable. All right, I'm going to throw a few shout outs in a minute because the reason why we did the show early today, and, viewership a little bit down from what it usually is because people are used to 3:00. Also, I've been off the grid for a week, so I could understand, like, there might be people out there who thought maybe Donno doesn't do a show anymore. Like, did he quit? Did he just decide to sail away to Jamaica and never come back? No, I ran out of money, so I had to come back, bros. So I am back today. We had to do the show a little bit early because I'm filling in to host the Hawk and Crowder show coming up at 2. And I'm also going to be working with the legend Joe Zagacki tonight, Canes basketball. I'm going to be doing the pregame, halftime, and postgame show with Joe Z. Miami is going to take on the Pitt Panthers on the road tonight. So when I came back from work, I came all the way back, bros. I've got a very, very long full day today. So, sorry, Devin. Yeah, so thank you. He says he missed the show because he just got in late. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, man. I even up until this morning, I was still planning on doing the normal time, and then I found out that they needed me to step in and host Hawk and Crowder today. And that's one of the good things about Ethan Skolnick and 5 Reasons. They're so awesome because, like, I'm flexible here. Like, they don't necessarily care what time I pop up on YouTube. I got to pop up. I got to pop up and do a show and talk to everybody. So we are here. Yeah. And Jamaica. Oh, see, he knows this. I was meeting with Tuanon at an undisclosed location off of Jamaica. There's like an island. I'm not going to tell you where it is. Like, I'm not going to give you the coordinates, right? But I was meeting at an undisclosed private island with the leaders, multiple of Tuanon. And we were basically plotting out the future of the human race. That's what we do, man. We had everything booked in. So let me throw some shout outs before we wrap it up on this episode. The Finns Tailgate, Thank you so much for joining us. Level 2 noob, I failed you again on the key lime pie. I promised him key lime pie. I failed. Gianmarco says, "Oh boy, here we go." Listen, Gianmarco, I'm sorry, man. I'm no longer a Tua hater. I am fully on with Tua and on. Now that we got the Brian Flores sabotage out of the way, it's Tua the moon. There's only one direction to go in, that's up. King Mill, thank you so much for tuning in. Devin, again, I'll throw you a shout out. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Gilbert Christopher, he says, X told Jakeem Grant and Justin Jefferson, see you next year after the Pro Bowl. They both play in the NFC North. Miami plays the NFC North next season. So, okay. So you're reading between. I thought you were going to say that he told them see you next year because he might play on one of their teams. But okay, all right. Love it. If we can get X here coached, the current best cornerback and one of, I think, the 3 or 4 best in Dolphins history, and X coached by 2 of the other 3 best in Dolphins history, I would love that. Miami making the playoffs, man. I love it. Cap for life. My guy, thank you so much for tuning in today, as always. Welch says, now I'm a professional musher. The one thing, dude, you guys know I'm a huge Inter supporter, Inter Milan, Inter Miami. It's like you got to prove something to me before you get my full support, but I'm a lifelong Inter Milan supporter. And I have superstitions that need to be followed when I watch them play, and I could not follow those superstitions, nor could I watch both of their games last week on TV from Jamaica. I was able to watch the one in Champions League against Liverpool, not the one against Sassuolo in Serie A because of the TV packages. I did not have my lucky mask or rituals to watch either of them. They went 0-2. They lost both games 2-0. So like I told my wife, this is proof. I told you. My lucky mask, my rituals where I watch it at home. Obviously, they only lose games when I'm on vacation or out of town. Obviously, the superstitions are real. That to me is scientific proof. She's still not buying it. So we got to get to that point. Andy from Scotland, my guy, thank you so much for watching across the pond or wherever you are, because he travels all over the world on business. He could be anywhere. Ray Grouillon, who says, howdy, Donno. Welcome back. Saw your videos on Twitter in the rafts. It looked like fun. Yeah, I did do. Oh, I had so many red stripes already that day. I did do live Twitter videos. If you want to go back on my Twitter and find those if you haven't seen them, when I was actually on an inner tube going through the White River near Ocho Rios. And it's amazing because you're on these inner tubes, like going through the river, and you have like every 30 feet, there's like a vendor, like right on the riverbank, selling you liquor and beer. So it's like, so at one point I'm just like, and I wasn't even sure I had like enough money to pay her for the beer because I had left most of my cash back at the hotel. But I bought this, $5 red stripe from this woman on the riverbank. She tracked me down later for the money. I did have the money. I just barely had enough to pay her $5 for the red stripe. So although I don't know what would have happened to me if I couldn't pay. I don't know. I probably wouldn't be back here right now. I'd be probably like working it off. I'd be working off the $5 over there. Jay Mill, thank you so much for tuning in. In Dade, thank you so much. 1J54, thank you so much for tuning in. Tony Kidd, thank you so much. I don't know if I've seen Tony in the chat before, so if it's not your first time, whoops. If it is your first time, I hope we see more of you. Lion Man, thank you so much. Elderac Pearson, thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, Big John Stud, thank you so much. Brooklyn Rob, who calls me the mush, love you, man. I love Big John Stud as well. I love both you guys. Shake Money, thank you so much. Maurice, thank you for joining us today and for chiming in. I don't know if I missed anybody. I think that might be it. If I missed anybody, I apologize. We'll try to do better on the shout outs tomorrow. I'm assuming Hawk is back in town, able to host a show tomorrow. I think I'm going to be back at the usual 3:00 time tomorrow. So I'll see you guys right here on 5 Reasons YouTube. Make sure, guys, support our sponsors, Quarterdeck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill. Make sure you support BetUS.com. Make sure you support Prize Picks. There are so many great daily fantasy games. We'll talk more about Prize Picks tomorrow. I will talk to you guys again tomorrow, 3 p.m. right here, Donno Daily on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Ciao.